So, what I would like for us to do today, which is really, tomorrow, is take still lifes. And since we really hit some interesting problems with translating line to value, you know, um, and I really want us to stay here for a little bit and explore that. So, I'm going to have a series of individual objects up. Some of the images have, two objects in them, but very simple, not a whole composition. And we're going to do just kind of break it down. For those of us who don't have our scales done yet, I'd like for you to um, either continue on those first and then do this, or look at the tools you haven't used yet on your scales and use those in this project or in this exercise. And we're going to be doing this during class. So what do we say? So I will record it, and then that will be available for people to watch later. So somebody, when we're done playing this, make sure I hit record. Next time, for next week, my goal is to have this portion actually available to you before class period, but I figured just playing at the beginning of class for this first time will be fine. So I'm going to just pick this cube. I know you can't see it super well on there. Maybe not even at all. Let's see. Let me see. Sorry, I'm checking my light here. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm just going to use the same one. And, you can feel free to use multiple different ones if you want. But what I'm going to do here is use this image to, the ring light hat. I'll just make sure I remember this straight demoed. Wow, technology, we're doing it. Okay. So I'm going to use this box and I have measured out here some picture planes, and I'm going to, since you guys can't really see it with I did it with a light blue because I thought that would work better, and you guys would be able to see it, but you can't. So I'm just going to take like this regular number 2 and regular, this is brown, love it. Okay, brown number 2. What? I was like sharpening these pencils, a bunch of these, and I was like, I love these pencils, and I can't remember why, because I just found them the other day, a whole stack of them, or a pile, or whatever. But anyway, so we all know that I'm working with this little tiny ruler because I still haven't found my large ruler because it's on Wayne State campus, and I had a busy week. So that's what that looks like. So I've used the thickness of my ruler to give me a little barrier here, right? On this side. And I do this when I'm not making something that's like gotta be super amazing. I just want to have that space, right? Because I don't actually want to have stuff coming off to the edge on all of my papers, even though I prefer compositions like that. When I'm using a workspace, I like to have this area, some area on the border. And in part I do that because I do notes. Because your sketchbook is for notes, of course. I think we all know that at this point. We've done some work in the sketchbook. You may have found yourself, hopefully, drawn to just jotting things down, or in a conversation with somebody, they say something cool, and then you're like, wow, I should write that in my sketchbook. I'm hoping those moments are happening for you guys. So I am just going to do this. Oh, sorry, my hair in the thing. Wow, in the corner of my eye, it scared the crap out of me. So what I've done here is measured these out 6 inches here. Wow, great. What I have measured out is, oh, you're not gonna see that, is, oh, I know what I'll do. Where's my fat boy? Go over here. Go over here. So the 5, not the brush. Okay, there's a different one I wanted, but whatever, can't find it. It's fine. So I'm just gonna use this 5 micron I have. I have a set of brown microns because I love life with brown microns. So this is 6 inches, and I've segmented this off, and these are 3 inches. So what that looks like is I put my little 6-inch ruler here. Hopefully you have a larger ruler you're working with. Make a mark at 3 and a mark at 6. And then I don't ever do all my marks at one time. I always kind of build. That's an inaccurate way to do it in a sense. So basically, so if I were to use a big ruler here and mark down ticks, that would be ideal, right? So take your long ruler, put it here. You have your little guide here, that's your ruler width. Put your long ruler here and make ticks at every 3rd inch. And then you move your ruler over to the left a little bit and you do that again at every 3rd inch, right? So at, put your 12 line right here. Most of your rulers will be like big versions of this. So when I'm here at the end, I want to, here at the end, I want to not measure from this edge, but instead measure from this line. So I would go, 3, 6, and then, 9, 12, and so on. So yeah, so since I'm doing little tiny ruler, this is going to be wildly inaccurate, and I do not recommend it. So you're going to do what I'm doing. You're just going to use your better, cooler, bigger ruler that you got for this class. And yeah, so do your 3, 6, 9, 12, then do here, line it up again, and do your dots at 3, 6, 9, 12, and a 3rd one on the side. So you'll have a dot in the center, there you go, a dot in the center, a dot on the edge. For real accuracy, you should also be sort of leaned over, but I'm just doing it from this angle. And we're not going for super accuracy with these boxes right here because these are just our picture planes for our exercise. And our exercise is getting to understand translating the values that we see in the shadows, in the shapes, in the still life, in the image, the reference image, the values that we see in those shadows and how they relate to how we can describe them in line. So yeah, so 3 inches here, 6 inches there, got this many boxes, and then I made a little mark here, with my ruler width again, because I'm just like just totally trying to get this paper set up for the exercise. Ideally in future weeks, if I'm doing some setup like this, maybe this is actually part of the homework, prepping I don't know, we'll see how it goes, right? Because I was thinking like that might be nice. You guys can do that kind of stuff, and then you're not facing quite as much drawing problem solving in your little cubicles at home. monitor went to sleep. I just want to make sure it's still recording here. But yeah, so, and the thing about when you measure, this, a lot of you probably have experience measuring. Some of you guys are in service studio. You guys are going to go over that pretty extensively. But the more dots that you make, as long as you're making them with care and you're making them accurately, the more lined up your image will be. You also want to keep in mind, though, that your dots will be visible depending on the tool that you're using, which is another reason why actually measuring out for exercises is really beneficial, because you're learning muscle memory and using the ruler and gaining all kinds of skills that are not really the point of the assignment but are woven into it. And all your assignments are going to be like that. Here I am still concerned because I haven't been able to tell if my monitor is asleep or if it stopped recording, and I could be talking to myself like usual. Here I'm just doing the same thing again. So I've made my marks here at 3 and then at 6. Again, keeping in mind that this is not the ideal ruler that I would be using for this, but it gets the job done for this. For our larger still lifes, and we get into some more measuring stuff, I'm gonna need to have that long ruler here. It would actually make this process way faster because I'd be able to do all of these at the same time. And so I'm actually going to take a second here and what I'll do is I'll just kind of dive into what the assignment is. So you're going to be picking a few different, or let me see, kind of struggle a little bit with some of the open-ended stuff here. So I'm going to have everybody pick 3 different objects to work from. So 3 different reference images, the images of the still lifes that I'm giving you. And you're going to mark your page out like this. And at the end of it, you will have, 3 of these sections. And then we're going to go through and redraw. So like this is reference image 1, right? So this is like cube. I'm going to call this cube 1. And then if I look through these still lifes, I'm going to pick, so we're going to do cube 1. Then I'm going to say, I really want to do a sphere. So sphere 1. And then, pyramid, triangle, one of these triangular compositions. I'll pick this guy, triangle 1. So we're going to go through and you're going to redraw the same still life in different ways. Now I'm going to move this down here, and this will be one of our sort of first attempts at me showing you some ways that we can get measuring done, sort of here. So what was the cube I picked? I wrote the word demo on it. So I'm going to take, and ideally I would have the ratio of proportion of this image be the ratio and proportion of the picture plane that I've drawn here. So these boxes here, each one is an individual picture plane. And I would take my reference image and I would change the proportions to meet that. So what that means is this is 6 inches long and 3 inches high. that is a 1:3 ratio. And I got that number by reducing the fraction. So 3, there's my weird marker for you guys. So, 3/6 equals divided by 3. So it's like, whoa, I did that wrong. It's a 1:2 ratio. Math. And I thought I was going to do better at this doing demos at night. Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to pop this into, or edit this, rather. And I'm going to edit the picture plane here, or actually I'm just going to tell you guys. So you guys should edit your picture plane down to a 1:2 ratio. So whatever relationship that is on your pixels is good. If you want to eyeball it for this, that is also fine, but it will be better for you to have it measured out at future times. There are also some I didn't send them to myself. I'll have some other options open for you guys too, because a lot of starting off, some of these have really complicated shadows, and so I'd like for us to stay into like simple shadow realm just for this exercise. So yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna kind of zoom this up here. What do I have here? I've got a 6H. So this would be a great one to go in and do this with. I am going to, before I move forward, and before you guys start, I will do a gesture drawing of this cube. And I'm going to use this paper a little bit differently. So I'm just going to pop over here. This part, do not follow this. I think you guys should do your gestures on your newsprint. But if you like, or whatever, we'll work it out. So you have to get these gestures in first. I think you should do them on your newsprint with the Vine charcoal. Loosen yourself up. I just want to move forward with the demo, so we're doing it like right here. So I'm looking at this this cube. You can kind of see it a little bit, and I'm trying to kind of see what we have here. And when I'm looking here, I'm actually kind of seeing the energy of this whole thing. So when I'm looking at this cube and I want to do a gesture drawing of this cube, I'm actually looking at this image. I'm looking at this scenario. I'm looking at all of the elements of this particular experience. So this here, this shadow, it is a shadow and this is a cube, but when I think about them in my mind and I think cube and shadow, my brain has a lot of assumptions it's making. So I'm trying to get out of that. So instead, I'm trying to just engage with these shapes. What are the shapes that I'm seeing? What's the feeling of this? And for me, this energy of this image actually comes in like this sort of swooping sort of motion here. There's a real sense of movement if you stop thinking about the fact that this is just a box and you just look at the shapes. There's like a sense of movement that comes through this, left corner and kind of comes around because of the use of the way this is cropped here and the way this triangular shape, has a relationship here and what's going on here, from here to here to here. So for me, a gesture for this, if I'm not looking at my paper so much, I'm just looking at that, and I'm trying to engage with this, and I'm trying to tell myself like, oh, I'm not trying to make assumptions. I'm just following the energy of this object. I'm trying to follow it around. What's happening? This other object here, it's darker. It's off to the side. And I'm just kind of getting a feel of looking. The thing that's happening here is that my mind and my whatever this other thing's called, my hand, are getting, to know each other and getting engaged with this object. everything that we see, we make assumptions about and we filter. You know, we're walking around all day long with an information Instagram filter on our experience. And we think we see things different than they actually are. So this is to get me into that space. So you can't see this right now. I'm going to lift this up so you can maybe see my gesture of this thing. So I did this with like a 4B. Oops. But so that's my gesture of that cube, because it's really my gesture of that environment, of that shape, of that space, of that thing. I don't know what that thing is yet because I haven't solved it with drawing yet. So right now it's just a thing. It's just shapes, object, whatever. You know, I'm not putting anything else into it. But I am asking myself, even at this stage, this gesture stage, I'll do another one of the thing. I'm asking myself about what am I seeing and how are they working together. So again, I started with the same. I definitely really connecting with this object in that space there. So, and this thing, this shape on the left bottom, this has a lot of stuff going on here. What's happening? And so I'm not like really thinking about how it's going to be. So if I'm doing these with these lighter pencils, you can, you know, and we will do this later. It's a great practice to do, is actually do a gesture drawing and then do a line drawing right over it of a particular thing. So, hold on one second. So, for at least one of your objects, try that, right? So, we're going to do some warm-up gestures, you know, on your newsprint. But for at least one of your experiences, I mean, for me, I'm just going to go ahead and do it on the first one because I'm not going to gesture draw everything. And we're keeping our shoulder moving, you know, shoulder. We're not resting our elbow or our wrist. Keeping some shoulder moving. Sorry you guys have to see my weird little lump on this crazy camera view. Yeah, so again, I'm kind of looking. And now this is a little bit more controlled experience because I know I'm doing it small. And, you know, but I still even, like, definitely the movement of this piece is in that swoop, you know, at least for me. Okay. So there's my gesture drawing in 2H of that cube. And it changes your experience, right? Normally I do my gestures on some other area, which right now is this, because it's going to change how I measure this image out. So I would do the blocking in with the 2H. I am going to have to do it with something darker. So I'm about to pull out and use, you know what, I'll just do it with this micron. So I'm just going to keep using this. I'll do, let's see. I will do something here that I should have had decided already. Okay, so 2B might be a little bit, that's a little, like, whoa, simmer down, Jenny. Okay. Can never just find a regular pencil. So you're going to watch me do this a bunch when I'm doing these demos. Don't do this. Don't ever set your sharpening stuff. Don't ever set your sharpening stuff on the work that you're doing. That's ridiculous. But it's very useful for this particular format. And also, I don't care. So I would just do this. And I actually do stuff like this all the time with my work because I have a whole thing that you may have whole things later about your relationship with your work and what that has to look like for you. And for me, I have to allow them to have disposability. I have to be able to embrace ephemeral qualities about them. I cannot make work that I expect to last the ages because the pressure's too damn much. Okay, So I'm going to come in here with my my light pencil, which, as we know, is not really that light. And, well, you know what? Let me see. Feel like I hope that I take this whole thing out, but I think this brighten. Ooh. How's that change our experience? Can you guys see that better? Worse? I think better. Okay. So, okay, yeah, that's the same. Okay. So I want my box to take up a fair amount of space here. And so I'm looking and seeing, okay, so where is this here? And so if I were, we'll work on this. If I were looking at this cube in real life, and not at an already translated thing, I would have to do a lot of this. And I'm still going to do that. Like, you'll notice me kind of holding things up here. And basically what I'm trying to do, this pencil's not great at, is understand the relationships between all of these things, right? And we're not doing 2-point perspective right now, so I'm not going to get too crazy about figuring out parallels and angles right now. I'm just trying to see how things line up together and what their relationships are to each other. I'm kind of seeing where are some things. Like, I see here, I see a triangle here. That makes, you know, if there were a line here. Yeah, so I'm just kind of getting a gauge of it, and having something here where I can look at it and I can go, okay, that's that. Now I can understand, oh, that line here, slightly shorter than this line here, because when I do this and I tilt my pencil over, that's what I see. They're very close. So I'm comparing it to this third object so that I have a relationship, you know, guide here. So I'm like, okay, this middle line here, how does it equate to this little line on the side? Okay, this little line's about 2/3, sort of. What about this? Oh, interesting. Didn't expect that to be the case. This line right here is like exactly the same size as this line here. Wow. You know, so that's what you do when you're citing that way. So what I'm going to do is look over here, and I'll show you without the gesture first and then with the gesture. I'm going to sort of take a second and decide, you know, I want my bottom point on this cube to kind of come somewhere around here. Can you guys see that? Wow, I have to be so much more committed for this. Is this not focusing? Focus. Okay. So I hope you guys can see it. You know, sort of here. And I'm doing these really light. So these are really light marks, even though you don't see that. Sort of going like where these outer points are. So this is an outer point. This is an outer point. So this is an outer point, even though it's really a shadow, right? Because like we talked about before, the shadows are really objects in the piece. So your most outest points are these two. These are your max for your vertical, right? And then the max for the horizontal is here, or is it there? Oh, it might be both. They might be the same. Nope, it's definitely here. So, so those are like the maximum situation. So I just kind of sort of block in those, what are my maximum situations? Oh, right there. Okay. All right. And then I start to take in and just get some really light lines going. I know that this is the furthest point is like here, and I'm seeing like how far is it from here, how far is it from here. I have done a real classic art thing, which I do sort of second nature, is there's this rule of thirds. If you had if you had this canvas or this picture split into 3 columns and 3 rows, every place where there's an intersection between the horizontal and the vertical lines is an area of interest. People will naturally respond well if important things happen in those areas. So this is actually just about right at the 3rd mark here. So I just thought that was interesting. I'd point that out. So if I want to use this, and I do this a lot in thumbnails, is I kind of put little marks on my thirds there. Now for this, I'm not going to do marks on the other third. I just will do a horizontal, you know. And since you have the ruler, you can actually measure out with the ruler, and then you really know what's going on here. But so I'm just going to go back to what I was doing, which is here's that bottom one, and then here's this outside. Let's see. The outside point's kind of a little bit higher. And I am, if you notice, I'm taking some little time, you know. We don't have to rush it. You can just get it, because you're going to get so much better after doing this a few times, right? And a lot of times in this, like, you know, sort of American style schooling, we start to really loathe repetition for skill building in the art world. But that's really like a disservice to a lot of things. You're going to do very well if you take time now to do these kinds of things with a little bit of extra care. And yeah, so it's like I'm not being super crazy about this, right? I'm just like, okay, this is a pretty proportionally accurate. I think I should bring this in a little bit. And you know, if on the first one you let it be a little loosey-goosey, maybe the next one you tighten up a little bit. If you did this one a little loosey-goosey, maybe the next time you loosen up a little bit. Or, I mean tighten up. Okay, so then I'm kind of coming in from the angle here, and I'm following this, right? I'm following this line down. And I'm not worried about where it's stopping because I'm just blocking in my image. So I'm just like, now, again, you're doing this with a light pencil, which means you can probably push a little hard, because these exercises for you to get used to handling these materials and to understand what we're doing here with value describing, value with line. So like if there's extra lines on your shit, it's like totally fine. It's no big deal. And you'll kind of get a lot out of those later. Also, personal fan of people who can draw amazing works that look like really like captivating, and also have those guidelines when you can still see those guidelines. I just love that, because I mean, I obviously love seeing the artist's hand in the work. That's, you know, I mean, I guess that's not obvious to you, but I do love that. That's the thing I love. Yeah, so I screwed up on that line there, so I'm gonna erase it a little bit, and I'm gonna keep in mind that this is exercises. This is training, so I'm not going to get too crazy. But yeah, so now I have that blocked in with a pencil, a light pencil. I'm going to use, this is my 05 micron. And it's a good idea to get in the habit of keeping little notes with your sketches so you know what your tools were. I won't lie to you, I don't actually do that. But I do it on when it's important. But I used to do it all the time. But now that I kind of a lot of times can tell what a tool is, because I do have my like top 300 favorite tools. or whatever, you know. But really tightly run practice, they keep track of all that stuff. So I've identified here on this object, this is my whitest white is down here, or I'm sorry, my brightest bright is down here. When I was taught, they used to say whitest white, and I used to get really irritated, which is probably why I started drawing very dark all the time for a really long period of time. But yeah, so the brightest bright here is happening because the light is reflecting off of this onto here, and your light source is like here. Okay, so I'm gonna just sort of indicate in my mind, you know, that is the brightest bright, and this here is the darkest dark. So I just came up with a key for myself. Oops. Darkest dark, brightest bright, and BB and DD, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to use just like sort of loose straight lines for this one. So I'm just going to go in real quick and just get in my like really most darkest area here. And this little part is this darker shadow. I did the line here, and then I put in a couple little extra guys for later, but I didn't bother getting this perfect, right? Because I understand that this object here on the left, this darker object, you know, it has a lot of things going on, as a job to do, and we're going to get there. And I don't need to do all of it at once. I just need to kind of know where my key areas are going to be. Now I'm looking here, what's like right adjacent to that. And you see here in this shadow, this core area here, and this is like darker, and it sort of matches this shadow. So this is like this is the core shadow right here, and this is the darkest part of the shadow that's on the actual object, and it reads here in a really interesting way. So I'm going to just come through here and kind of mark that in. One good strategy for this sort of thing, which I admittedly use on objects I like more, is just to actually take your light pencil and draw lines where you see those gradient shifts, and sort of do a couple lines that indicate to you which sides are darker and which sides are lighter, and then go over and whatever. Now, if I wanted to just use a 2B pencil, I could just do that the whole time and not, you know, ink over it. But okay, so I'm just going to come through here. And I'm going to recognize that I'm probably going to darken this up, but I've already noticed some problems that I think I might be coming to. I don't really like the idea of having all of these lines going straight up the cube. For some reason that kind of bothers me right now. So I'm going to think about that in a second, but I'm going to make a stylized choice really quick here and pop over and connect these lines like, whoa, now this shadow gets fuzzy right here, you know. So I'm not going to like finish that, but I'm going to let this one be real for sure right there. And so as it gets over this way, I'm going to go like this. And I might flick my wrist, right? If I want to, depending on how I do it, how I want to do it. So, and I'm kind of just bringing them up and stopping. Now you'll notice that if you're using a pen, that you'll get like little extra little dots down at that bottom where you kind of pull up. So when you're doing your motion, if you're doing this kind of thing and you don't want that, you have to sort of train yourself to lift your pen up before you come back over. Or you're just going like this, which is also fine. Just, you just got to know when that's what you want to do and when it's something else you want to do. I don't want extra dark edges right at the edge of the shadow that I literally just said. It's doing so much better. Okay, so don't know how I feel about those. I really feel like for this side, I want to do some other lines. I'm going to both lighten up my touch and space them out a little bit differently. And now I'm like, oh man, wait. On this cube, that edge wasn't darker. Oh, why did that happen? That happened because of how I was moving my pen. So I come in from the other side, try and even it out. So this is what drawing is. Drawing is problem solving and visual description. So I really do like this better, and I feel like these lines should keep just sort of wrapping around. So I'm going to do here. Now, if you guys weren't here on the camera here, I'd turn my whole paper. But I've actually changed my whole body and my relationship to where I'm doing this stuff. I'm just going to come through. And so I'm letting myself go right back over these other shadow areas and sort of follow this into this way. So now I've decided that this is a cross-hatching piece, obviously. And I'm doing cross-hatching as we've seen people do them the whole thing. Some people do them little. Sometimes you want to do a little combination. So I'm going to try and keep that kind of going. So here I want a background, but I want the background to be obviously not more cube. But, yeah. So I'll go in there. Cool. Excellent. Now, I'm going to do that, a bunch more times with some different tools. And I'm always going to write down what I'm doing. I'm leaving some of these questions open and letting you guys discover these in the direction that works with you, because it has been my personal experience and it is my personal belief that sometimes if we teach artists to answer close-ended questions, then we are teaching artists to expect someone else to give them the answer. And there are a lot of things I can teach you and help you with, but when it comes to your own practice, your own art, I actually cannot give you the answer. I can give you a lot of ideas and I can ask you a lot of questions, but you're the only one who will ever have any answers. You have that power in the long run. But that's what critique is for, so you can see what other people see and help you problem solve your own work in the long run. So, yeah. So, I've got this gesture up here that I did, and I'm going to go ahead and draw kind of over it. And since it's already a gesture, I'm going to let myself just get, oops, where's my image? I always want to go back to my image, my reference. So I'm going to kind of move where the cube is a little bit, not too much because I already did the gesture there, but try and keep myself from not getting too ramped up, So, I'm going to totally do this. I can't. I have my system. I have to do my system. Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of quick block it in and let myself do that, because I'm actually going to take a little time on this one. When we get to the next part, which is like my favorite part, I'm going to just do a little pointillism. So pointillism is a particular way of describing value with line, because you're describing value with dot, with points, pointillism. So you can also describe texture that way and all that kind of stuff. So I actually really like this little scratchy scratches, how this went, so we're just going to actually scratchy scratches this then. And I'm going to notice, about myself. I really like scratchy backgrounds. I also know that now I wish, a little wish list here, separate tool on background. I don't like that I've noticed in both of these, the background and the object become a little bit too together, because I'm doing them the same way, right? So I just noticed that. Did I think about that when I was just sitting, thinking without actually doing something? No, I didn't, because that's not how thinking happens for a lot of us, So we'll go from there. So I'm just gonna do a scribble boy here, and I'm still, trying to keep some ideas. Even though I'm scribbling closer here, man. I'm scribbling closer there. I'm getting darker here. I'm getting less defined on the edges, right? So in illustration, it becomes really important to use your visual economy really well. I know we're drawing from life. This is an illustration class, it's a drawing class, but obviously those are two extremely related. It's like square and a rectangle kind of situation. So, yeah. So I've kind of decided, again, notice I really started with the darks pretty quick, that's where it's happening. So that's where I'm going. And I can keep more energy in my movements if I keep my shoulder going. But if you've noticed, there are times when I pop down onto my wrist to get a really... But you see, even here, instead of going like that, I just went, yeah. Alright, so I'm going to change my relationship here to the edges a little bit again. Get my top point, my little side point, my longest point, down point. Okay, and so this is the top corner here. I don't know if you guys can see this because my screen went out again, but it's this top corner here, sort of here. And these are these are little points, just little guesses, But I am looking at these relationships. But since this is the third time I've done this cube now, I can already find myself seeing things that were wrong in the first two, like this is actually lower and wider, and I'm going to actually take a different tool and be like, oh wow, lower. That was lower and wider. And I can do that because it's not like a finished piece. Okay, so it's hard to do this demo when I see it and oops, that angle's way off. Okay, there we go. I know I'm going to, oh, there's a little foreshortening on this cube. Oh, didn't even notice that the first time. So, and I'm trying, right? I'm trying to get some accuracy here, but I'm also letting myself have permission to not get super perfect, because I feel like that's going to take away from the thing. So there's a line here that cuts through this point, and that shadow. And I actually messed up that relationship in both of these other two things. So when it comes to here, that point is too high. And if I look here, these are almost in a straight line, almost. And here is also, it's way too high. So I should have really brought that down. Now, if I wasn't doing 3 in a row like this, I would maybe have never ever noticed that I was making that issue. And I've broken these down differently, right? This one I did the 3s, right? I broke it down to 3 sections. And then this one, I just did a gesture first. And then this one, I went right into the shape, and now I'm drawing relationships between points. So I got this point here. Here's this little silver guy. So then I look here, and I look there. Oh, well, that's different. That actually, this is like way off. That actually looks more like this. So to get a good angle on this, I'm just gonna sort of swap. What's this relationship? What's going on? Oh, so some of drawing is muscle memory, and so I'm letting my body do some of this work for me. Can't do all of it, but you know, it can do some of it. I mean, I guess Jackson Pollock would say that it can do all of it, or at least he tried to say that. Anyways, I don't really believe him, but yeah. So then we're going there, and then because I did that, I noticed that. All right. And so every time my cube is actually getting much better every time. Yeah. So now I'm going to go in with this, and I'm just going to put a bunch of points in my darkest area. Now, I know one artist ever who starts with the lightest area first. And her and I both used to, when we were kids, start with the mid area first. And then we had a teacher who taught us how to draw, told us to start with the dark areas first, and I loved that. And it's kind of a tried and true method. I'm not gonna lie, lots of people know it. She hated it, so she ended up figuring out that she needed to start with the light areas first. And I'll tell you, I don't know, man. I don't know how that works really. So now I'm looking back at this shadow again, and because this is the 3rd time I've looked at this shadow, and I see this little this core shadow here on the guy here, I can notice it's actually a little bit triangular. So now I've developed that, and I'm gonna go in and do more dots there, but not as many as is in my darkest area. So anyway, so she does the lighter parts first. I don't really know how that works. I've watched her draw. Usually she's using color, so she'll start with like yellows and stuff first. And I have done it with some paintings in a way, but it's like conceptually that's not where I start. I'm starting on the darkest areas because my mind is loving the darker areas before it's loving the other areas. That little pop makes me so happy. That's, you know, my goal here, the real problem I'm solving here is keeping myself tuned into this cube until it's drawn. Until I have solved this cube with line. That's my thing. That's what I'm doing. I'm making problems. I'm making a lot of problems for myself. Because my biggest problem is that I want to be able to draw this cube. I want you to look at this cube and think something, right? I don't know what that looks like. What are you going to think? Who can know? So this is going to take me a while. So I'm probably not going to finish this here on this demo. And I think I've probably showed you guys enough to get through to tomorrow. Watching this, we'll start class. This is how we'll start class. We'll kind of connect, talk, do this, and then you guys will start working, and I'll be working on mine, and you guys can ask me stuff. That's what we'll do from there. So I'm gonna write Pointillism dots, and what do I got? 05 micro pen. So I will say that for this exercise, you should use pens and pencils. Stay away from the charcoal right now. we're just going to do this line stuff, pens, pencils. And yeah, and we'll get these filled up today. Thank you.